Welcome back to Mr. John Stories, where life's most powerful lessons come wrapped in unforgettable tales. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining the family. Please hit the subscribe button so we can keep sharing inspiring stories like this with you on YouTube. Cassie stood frozen in her own living room, her breath shaky, her heart pounding against her ribs. The soft glow of a single lamp did nothing to ease the tension between her and the man standing across from her. Clooney's voice, usually steady and composed, broke for the first time since she'd known him. "Why don't you want me?" He wasn't angry. He was wounded. His brow pulled together, his chest rising and falling as if he were trying to steady emotions he'd never expected to feel. This was a man who had conquered boardrooms, negotiated million-dollar deals, and led entire teams without flinching. Yet here he was, undone by one woman's silence. Cassie swallowed hard, her lips trembling as she tried to answer him, but nothing came out. Because the truth, the real truth, was something she'd buried so deeply that even she feared speaking it aloud. The room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. And the one question hanging in the space between them threatened to break everything they had built. Have you ever cared for someone so deeply yet felt too afraid to let them all the way in? That was Cassie. A woman who had survived storms many never see. A mother who carried the weight of the world with a smile, but still struggled to believe she deserved gentle love. Cassie wasn't pushing him away because she didn't feel anything. She was pushing him away because she felt too much, because letting someone in meant risking everything she'd fought so hard to rebuild. Her past wasn't a memory. It was a shadow she was still trying to outrun. Suddenly, the scene flashes to a night that changed everything. Cassie's porch, raised voices, a figure shoving forward, Clooney stepping in front of Cassie, shielding her with his body. A fist flying. Cassie crying out as she struck across the face. The sharp wail of police sirens reflecting off her windows. Before love strengthened her, danger returned to her doorstep. Before healing found her, pain tried to pull her back. And before the truth set her free, it nearly destroyed her. This wasn't just romance. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was survival meeting compassion, and colliding with a past that refused to stay buried, back to her living room. Back to Clooney's eyes searching hers for an answer. What truth could shake a billionaire to his core? What secret could make a single mother question whether she deserved love at all? And how did everything between them rise? And nearly fall, in one breath. Today's story reveals it all. Darling viewers, before we begin this emotional journey, welcome back to Mr. John Stories, where life's most powerful lessons come wrapped in unforgettable tales. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining the family. Please hit the subscribe button so we can keep sharing inspiring stories like this with you on YouTube. And don't forget to like this video and comment your thoughts. It truly helps this channel grow. Morning in Hampton, Virginia had a rhythm of its own. One that Cassie had learned to dance to, even when she was tired, rushing, or carrying worries she didn't speak about. The sun had barely started to creep over the rooftops when her alarm buzzed for the third time. She exhaled, rolled her eyes at herself, and pushed the blanket back. "Malik," she called out, already knowing the battle ahead. "You better be up, boy. We're not doing this again today." A muffled groan drifted down the hallway. Cassie shook her head as she padded across the hardwood floor. Her little house smelled faintly of cocoa butter and leftover pancakes from last night. The framed photos on the wall, family cookouts, Malik with a missing front tooth, her mama holding him like he was her second chance, gave the home its warmth, the kind that reminded her who she was and how far she had come. She pushed Malik's door open. The 8-year-old was completely wrapped in his blanket like a burrito, only the top of his curls visible. "Really?" she said, arms folded. Malik didn't move. Cassie tapped her foot. "If you don't get up, I'm eating your last snack-size honey bun." "I'm not playing either." The blanket flew off instantly. "Mom, no, that's mine." Cassie burst out laughing. "Get dressed. Clothes are on the chair." "Don't make me come back." Malik hopped out of bed and began searching for his socks. "Can you tie my shoes today?" "You do it better. I'll tie them if you hurry. We cannot be late." Booker T. Washington Elementary does not play with tardy slips. I'm hurrying. Their morning back and forth was something Cassie secretly loved. It reminded her that even when life tested her, she was raising a bright, funny, resilient black boy with a heart big enough to light up a room. By the time she made it to the kitchen, the morning rush had officially begun. Cassie scooped scrambled eggs onto Malik's plate, snatched her keys off the counter, and double-checked her work badge. Malik slid into the seat across from her. "Do we have time for cartoons?" he asked. He sighed dramatically. "No." Correct answer. Malik munched quickly, swinging his legs beneath the table. Cassie grabbed a brush and gently pulled his curls into a neat shape while he ate. He leaned his head back into her hand, relaxed and trusting. Those little gestures reminded her how much he depended on her. "Mom," Malik suddenly whispered, "do you think my spelling test will go good today?" Cassie cupped his cheek. "You studied. You're smart. You'll be fine. For real." "Okay," Malik said softly, a small smile forming. These were the moments that fueled her. 10 minutes later they burst out the door in a blur of backpacks, jackets, and half-breathed sentences. "Hurry up. We're actually on time today," Cassie said, pushing the button to unlock their aging sedan. Malik jumped in the back seat and buckled up. Traffic was its usual slow crawl, but Cassie knew every shortcut. She turned on the radio, old-school R&B humming low, and merged onto the road toward Booker T. Washington Elementary. Malik hummed along between bites of his granola bar. When she reached the drop-off lane, Cassie leaned back so she could see Malik's face. "Be good. Listen, and you got that spelling test. Don't overthink it." "I won't. Love you, Mom." "Love you too." He hopped out, waved, and dashed toward the entrance. Cassie watched him disappear into the building before driving off toward Hampton Technologies. Her shift at Hampton Technologies demanded alertness, patience, and the ability to smile through exhaustion. She worked in the administrative support division, a job that kept the company running even when the executives forgot how many people made their success possible. Cassie slid into the employee parking lot right on schedule. Inside, the building buzzed with early work chatter. She flashed her badge at the security desk, rode the elevator up, and stepped into the wide office space filled with keyboards tapping, phones ringing, and coworkers hurrying to prepare for the day. Another day. Another chance to make life work for herself and Malik. Her role wasn't glamorous, but she was good at it. Organized, quick-thinking, and able to handle chaos with a smile. And even though she often felt tired, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that made her stand out without trying. Still, beneath her humor and strength there was fatigue, deep, steady, and familiar. But Cassie kept going, because she had no choice. Her son depended on her. Her future depended on what she did today. She took a breath, turned on her monitor, and whispered to herself, "All right, Cassie, let's get this day going. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had mornings like Cassie's. Chaotic, funny, and full of love." Cassie settled into her chair, clicking through her morning emails when a soft chime echoed from the elevator behind her. She didn't turn at first. Executives came and went every morning, and she usually kept to herself unless she was needed. But this morning the room grew noticeably quieter. She looked up. Clooney stepped out of the elevator with the calm confidence of someone used to running entire companies. Cassie had seen him from afar plenty of times, always in tailored suits, always moving with purpose, always surrounded by people who needed something from him. But up close he carried a different kind of presence. Polished, yes. Direct, definitely. But there was something unexpectedly approachable about him. He scanned the room as if searching for someone. Cassie returned her eyes to her screen quickly. She was not trying to get caught staring at her CEO. But then, "Good morning," a smooth voice said. Cassie froze before turning her head slightly. Clooney stood beside her desk. Her pulse jumped. She blinked. Yes. Yes, I'm Cassie. You handle the administrative funnel for project coordination, correct?" "Yes, sir." She sat up straighter, hoping she didn't look as flustered as she felt. "Well," Clooney said, adjusting his watch. "Your organization skills are sharp. I appreciate that. Makes my job easier. Cassie didn't know whether to smile, nod, or faint. Thank you. I try my best. He glanced down at her desk, a stack of color-coded folders and sticky notes arranged with near-perfect alignment. It shows. For a moment their eyes met. It wasn't long. It wasn't intense, but it carried a warmth she hadn't expected. Before she could think of anything else to say, Clooney stepped back. Hope your day goes well. You too, she replied softly. He walked toward his office, and Cassie exhaled as if she had been holding air for hours. Monique slid into the chair beside her with a grin big enough to light up the entire floor. Oh, Cassie, she whispered. Don't act like that man didn't just stop your heart. Cassie covered her face with her hands. Monique, please. I'm trying not to get fired. Fired? Girl, he just gave you a compliment worth a whole promotion. It was nothing, Cassie muttered, though the butterflies in her stomach argued otherwise. Monique tapped her desk. Cassie, you know good and well that was not a regular good morning. That man looked at you like he appreciated your whole soul. Stop, Cassie whispered sharply, unable to fight the heat in her cheeks. Monique only laughed. Don't worry, I won't say anything. But whew, if that's how the morning is starting, today might be interesting. Cassie rolled her eyes, but a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. Still, she reminded herself to stay grounded. Clooney was her CEO, a whole billionaire, a man with a life and lifestyle that didn't match hers in any way. She was a single mother trying to make ends meet, a woman with responsibilities that left little space for fantasies. Whatever that moment was, it needed to stay a moment. She buried herself in work, hoping the day would pass quietly. Around noon, she started sorting documents into the distribution bin when her phone began vibrating on the desk. Unknown number from Booker T. Washington Elementary. Her stomach dropped instantly. Hello? This is Cassie. Hi, Miss Johnson, the receptionist said. We're calling about Malik. Cassie's breath caught. Is he okay? He's safe, but he's been having trouble breathing during recess. His inhaler was used, but he's still not stable. We think you should come. Her heart kicked into overdrive. I'm leaving right now. She hung up, grabbed her purse with shaky hands, and rushed toward the elevator. Her thoughts raced faster than her steps. Please be okay, please be okay, please be okay. As she reached the ground floor, she heard someone call her name. Cassie! She turned. Clooney was moving toward her with concern written across his face. What happened? He asked. It's Malik, she managed. The school called. He's having trouble breathing. I need to go. Clooney didn't hesitate. I'll drive. What? No, sir, I can. You shouldn't drive while you're shaking like that, he said gently. Let me help. Cassie looked down at her trembling hands. She hadn't even noticed how bad they were. Clooney stepped slightly closer. Come on. He needs you calm and safe. Let me take you. Her instinct was to refuse. Pride and panic clashed in her chest. But she couldn't deny the truth. She could barely think straight, much less operate a car. After a breath, she nodded. Okay. Clooney placed a steady hand on her back, guiding her toward the exit. They stepped out into the parking lot together, and for the first time since the call, Cassie felt a tiny bit less alone. Clooney opened the passenger door of his car and helped Cassie inside gently, as if she were fragile glass he was terrified of cracking. She tried to steady her breathing, but her nerves wouldn't let her settle. Malik was her whole world, and the thought of him struggling to breathe made every second feel like an hour. Clooney got into the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot with focused urgency. His jaw tightened, not in frustration, but in concentration. He wanted to get her there quickly, safely, and without adding to her panic. Cassie, he said softly as they turned onto the main road, talk to me. Is this something that happens often? She clutched her phone tightly. He has asthma. It's usually under control, but when he gets excited or if the weather changes suddenly, it can hit fast. Clooney nodded, glancing her way with concern. We'll get there soon. Just breathe with me, okay? His voice held a steadiness she didn't expect, warm, grounding, almost soothing. She inhaled shakily, mirroring his slow rhythm. Bit by bit, her chest loosened. Traffic parted for his car as if the world understood the urgency. They arrived at Booker T. Washington Elementary within minutes. Cassie rushed out before the vehicle had fully stopped. Clooney caught up, keeping pace beside her. Inside, the school nurse guided them to a small room where Malik sat on the exam table, legs dangling, eyes tired but alert. His breathing had steadied, though a faint wheeze lingered. "Mom," he whispered. Cassie hurried to him, scooping him into her arms. "Oh, baby, you scared me." Malik leaned against her. "I'm okay now." She kissed his forehead repeatedly, relief washing over her like warm rain. Clooney waited respectfully near the door, giving mother and son their space. He didn't interrupt. He didn't intrude. He simply stood there with a quiet presence that felt strangely comforting. The nurse approached Cassie. "He's stable now, but I recommend taking him home for the rest of the day." "Of course," Cassie said. She brushed Malik's curls back with trembling fingers. "We're going home, sweetheart." Clooney stepped forward. "Do you need a ride? You shouldn't have to handle everything alone right now." Cassie hesitated. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately, but another part, the cautious, self-protective part, held her back. She wasn't used to accepting help, especially from someone like him. Still, Malik looked up at Clooney with curious eyes. "Are you Mom's boss?" Cassie cleared her throat. "Malik." Clooney smiled kindly. "Yes, I am. But today, I'm just helping a friend." Cassie blinked at the word friend. It settled into her heart a little too easily. She exhaled. "If you really don't mind, then thank you." "I don't mind at all," Clooney said, sincerity evident. They walked Malik to the car, Clooney carrying the boy's backpack so Cassie could hold his hand. Malik warmed to him quickly, a sign Cassie didn't overlook. Her son didn't trust easily. For him to soften so fast meant something she wasn't ready to name. Once Malik was buckled in, Cassie settled into the passenger seat again. Clooney pulled into traffic, the silence in the car gentle rather than awkward. After a few minutes, he asked, "Do you want to go straight home?" "Yes," she whispered. "Home is best." The drive was calm. Malik occasionally glanced up at Clooney through the rearview mirror, studying him as children do when deciding whether an adult is safe. Cassie could see it happening in real time. Her son weighing this man's presence. Clooney caught Malik's gaze and offered a small smile. "You gave your mom a scare today." Malik nodded slowly. "Sorry." "No need for sorry," Clooney said. "Just focus on getting better." Something about the exchange touched Cassie deeply. She turned her head toward the window, not wanting either of them to see the emotion welling in her eyes. When they reached her neighborhood, Clooney slowed as he observed the modest houses lining the street. There was no judgment in his expression, only quiet curiosity. Cassie felt a flicker of vulnerability, wondering how their worlds could ever touch without clashing. He parked in her driveway. "Take your time," he said gently. Cassie helped Malik inside. After settling him on the couch with a blanket, she returned to the doorway where Clooney stood waiting. "You really didn't have to do all of this," she told him. "I know," Clooney replied. "But I wanted to—" Cassie crossed her arms lightly, unsure how to process the warmth spreading through her chest. "I don't know how to thank you. You don't owe me anything. Just let me make sure you're okay." Her throat tightened at the simplicity of his words. "Would you like some sweet tea?" she asked, feeling awkward yet sincere. "I'd love some." They stepped into the kitchen. Cassie poured the amber liquid into 2 glasses, handing him one. Clooney took a slow sip, his eyes lighting up. "This is amazing," he said. "I've never had it made like this." Cassie let out a soft laugh. "Family recipe." They stood there for a moment, 2 people from different worlds sharing a quiet pause in her kitchen. Malik's soft breathing from the living room filled the silence with comfort, rather than tension. For the first time in a long while, Cassie felt seen, not as an employee, not as a struggling mother. Just herself. Clooney set his glass on the counter. "Cassie, if you ever need anything at all, you can tell me." His tone was gentle, genuine, open. She didn't trust herself to speak, so she nodded. Clooney stepped toward the door. "I'll check on you later, all right?" "All right." As he walked out, Cassie leaned against the counter, her heart unsteady. What she felt scared her, but it also warmed her. For the first time in years, she realized she wasn't as alone as she thought. Cassie arrived at work the next morning still thinking about the way Clooney had stepped into her world the day before. Steady, supportive, and unexpectedly gentle. She had replayed the scene in her mind more times than she wanted to admit. His voice telling her to breathe. His warm glance at Malik. His quiet promise that she didn't have to face everything alone. As she approached her desk, she froze. A bouquet of fresh lilies and soft pink roses sat in a clear vase right where her keyboard should have been. A small envelope rested against the glass. Her breath caught. Flowers were not normal for her. Not at work, not at home, not anywhere. She stood there, unsure whether to touch them or walk away. Monique spotted her from across the office and hurried over, practically bouncing. "Oh my goodness, Cassie," she squealed quietly. "Who sent you these? Girl, somebody is feeling you." Cassie picked up the envelope with slightly trembling fingers. She opened it. In neat handwriting, the message read, "For your strength yesterday, for your heart every day." C. She stared at the signature. C. Her pulse stumbled. Monique leaned over her shoulder, inhaling sharply. "C as in, Clooney, Cassie. Tell me this is not what I think it is." Cassie closed the card quickly. "Keep your voice down." Monique lowered her volume, barely. "What did you do to that man? Did you save his company in a past life?" "I didn't do anything," Cassie whispered. "He just helped yesterday. That's all." "That's all?" Monique crossed her arms. "Cassie, he drove you to the school. He checked on you. And now he's sending flowers? This is not, that's all. This is something." Cassie's cheeks warmed. She touched one of the petals, surprised at how delicate it felt. The bouquet didn't feel like a grand gesture meant to impress. It felt thoughtful, kind, personal, but her mind jumped to the caution she wore like armor. "He's my boss," she reminded softly. "A whole CEO. A billionaire. He lives in a world that doesn't touch mine." Monique rolled her eyes. "Love doesn't check tax brackets. Monique, I'm serious. And I saw the way he looked at you yesterday. That was not corporate. That was caring." Cassie shook her head. "I can't afford to get carried away." Monique nudged her gently. "Not asking you to get carried away. Just asking you to admit you feel something." Cassie didn't respond. She didn't have to. Her silence was answer enough. She tried to focus on her work, but every time her eyes drifted toward the bouquet, her thoughts drifted with them. A soft warmth settled in her chest, the kind she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just that someone noticed her. It was that he noticed her. Around mid-morning, as she typed an email, she sensed someone approaching. The gentle cologne gave him away before she even looked up. Clooney stopped beside her desk. "Good morning, Cassie." Her breath hitched. "Good morning, sir. Did the flowers reach you?" She swallowed. "They did. Thank you." "You didn't have to do that. I know," he replied softly. "But I wanted to—" The words held a faint echo of what he'd said in her doorway yesterday. She wasn't sure how to stand under the warmth of his gaze without melting. "I hope they didn't cause any trouble," he added. "No, sir," she said quickly. "They're beautiful." He smiled, small, subtle, but real. "Good. I'm glad you like them." Monique watched shamelessly from across the room, mouthing silently, "Oh my Lord." Cassie shot her a warning glance. Clooney seemed to notice the silent exchange and chuckled, the sound low and gentle. "I'll let you get back to work. If you need anything today, just let me know." "I will," she said. He nodded and walked away, his calm steps echoing down the hall. Monique pounced as soon as he disappeared into his office. "Cassie, Cassie, Cassie." Did you see how he was looking at you? Cassie groaned. Monique, no ma'am, we're not pretending anymore. That man likes you. And honestly, you like him too. Cassie bit her lip. I don't know what I feel. Okay, Monique said, leaning in. But your face knows. Your heart knows. And your smile right now definitely knows. Cassie looked down at her lap, unable to deny it. Her attraction wasn't loud or overwhelming. It was quiet, steady, and impossible to ignore. Still, her fear whispered louder. What if this goes wrong? Cassie asked softly. What if I misread everything and mess up my job or get hurt again? Monique placed a gentle hand on hers. You don't have to rush anything. Just let yourself feel. You deserve that. Cassie inhaled deeply. The truth was simple. Yes, she was scared. But for the first time in years, someone, made her heart stir again. She didn't know where this was heading. She didn't know if it was wise. But she knew one thing. Something between them was shifting. And no matter how hard she tried to deny it, the annual Hampton Technologies Company picnic always drew a lively crowd. But Cassie had never seen the energy feel quite like this. Families gathered under the warm sunshine at the Riverside Park. Children darted between picnic tables, and co-workers mingled over barbecue plates and cold drinks. It was meant to be a light-hearted afternoon, but for Cassie, her thoughts kept drifting to the bouquet sitting on her desk the day before. She arrived with Malik tugging excitedly at her hand. Mom, can I go play? He asked the moment they stepped onto the grass. Yes, but stay where I can see you, she reminded him, smiling, as he sprinted toward a group of kids playing tag. Cassie smoothed the front of her blouse, trying to steady her breath. She wasn't nervous about the picnic itself. She was nervous about him, the man who had been at the center of her thoughts all week. She didn't have to look around long. Clooney was there, speaking with a few department heads. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes kept scanning the park, searching. When they finally landed on Cassie, something in his expression brightened, subtle but unmistakable. He excused himself from his conversation and approached her. Glad you made it, he said, his voice warm in a way he rarely used with others. For a moment they simply stood there, the easy silence between them saying more than either dared to voice. Then they walked together toward a quieter stretch near the docks, where the breeze carried the gentle scent of river water. Cassie reached for a railing and leaned against it. This spot is peaceful. Clooney joined her, giving a small nod. I was hoping you would wander over here. She glanced at him, startled. You were? He gave a soft laugh. Let's just say, I've become very aware of your presence lately, even before you arrive. The admission pulled her breath up short. She knew he liked her, or something close to liking her, but hearing him say it so plainly stirred a warmth she wasn't prepared for. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the flowers, she murmured, eyes on the rippling water. Clooney stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. I didn't want to overwhelm you. I just wanted you to know I see what you carry, Cassie, and I respect the strength it takes. Her throat tightened. Respect, not pity, not assumptions. Respect. I appreciate that, she said quietly. Before she could say more, Malik's laughter floated across the park. He was running circles around a picnic table with two boys from her office, his joy as bright as the afternoon sun. Clooney followed Cassie's gaze, smiling slightly. He has a lot of energy, Clooney commented. Too much, Cassie laughed. If I could bottle it, I'd make a fortune. There was something special in the way Clooney observed Malik. Not as an inconvenience or complication, but as part of Cassie's world. Her heart softened unexpectedly. They stood together in comfortable silence until Clooney took a slow breath, as if gathering courage. There's something I'd like to ask you, he said. Her pulse stumbled. All right. He looked out over the water again before turning fully toward her. Earnest eyes, steady voice. There's a charity gala next weekend. I sponsored one of the tables. It's formal, yes, but more than that, it's important to me. He paused, and his next words came softly, almost vulnerable. I'd like you to come with me, Cassie. As my date. The world stilled around her. Every gentle moment they had shared flashed through her mind, but so did every warning she carried inside herself. A quiet battle rose in her chest. Curiosity versus fear. Cassie exhaled slowly. Clooney, that's a big event. People will talk, I know, he replied. And I won't pretend they won't notice. But I'm not concerned about any of that. His voice deepened, sincere. I'm only concerned with what you want, not what anyone else thinks. She considered her next words carefully. You're a CEO. A billionaire. You move in circles I've never stepped into. And? He asked gently. And I'm a black single mom from Hampton, she said, letting the truth sit openly between them. People will have opinions. People always have opinions, Clooney answered softly. But I'd never ask you to face anything alone. Not anymore. Her breath caught at that last part. Not anymore. Before she could speak, footsteps approached. Monique. She sauntered over with a knowing grin. Well, you two hiding from the rest of us? Cassie nearly groaned. Monique. Oh, relax, Monique whispered dramatically. I'm just here for moral support, and maybe gossip later. Clooney gave a polite nod. Good afternoon, Monique. As he walked away momentarily, clearly giving Cassie space, Monique clutched her chest. Girl, the way he's looking at you. If love had headlights, he'd be shining them right in your face. Monique, Cassie warned. Nope, listen. Monique crossed her arms. If a man like that invites you to a gala, you say yes, not for the money, not for the fancy stuff, but because he's offering you something real. You deserve real. Cassie's voice dropped to a whisper. I'm scared. I know, Monique said, softer now, but don't let old wounds block a good thing. The words sank into Cassie's heart like a truth she already knew. When Clooney returned, she looked up at him, eyes uncertain but hopeful. I'll go, she said quietly. I'll be your date. The relief in his expression was unmistakable. Thank you, Cassie. And in that moment, under the warm afternoon sun, with laughter echoing across the park, Cassie realized something she hadn't dared to admit before. Whatever they were stepping into, she wanted to step with him. Cassie hadn't expected the week leading up to the gala to feel like such an emotional storm. The moment she said yes, the reality hit her. Stepping into Clooney's world meant being seen in ways she wasn't sure she was ready for. So when a beautifully wrapped box arrived at her desk 2 days before the event, she froze. Inside was a sapphire evening gown. Elegant, soft, flowing. The kind of dress she had only admired in magazines, never imagining she would wear something like it. A card rested on top. Only if you want to. You'd look stunning. See. Her breath trembled. It wasn't just a gift. It was care, consideration, and quiet admiration woven into a single gesture. And it scared her. Only because it meant this wasn't casual for him. It wasn't casual for her either. That night, in her bedroom, Cassie held the dress in front of the mirror. Malik peeked inside and gasped. Mom, you look like a superhero, he announced proudly. She smiled, smoothing his curls. A superhero? Really? Yeah, he nodded firmly, like the kind that goes to fancy parties and saves the day. His innocent confidence settled something inside her. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could step into something bigger without losing herself. Her mother helped her make a few tiny adjustments, and by Saturday evening, Cassie stood by the door with her clutch in hand, while Malik and Mama admired her, like she was stepping onto a movie set. You ready, baby? Mama asked gently. No, she wasn't ready, but she nodded anyway. Arrival at the gala. Cassie stepped out of the black car the moment they reached the Hampton Roads Convention Center. Her breath caught as she saw the glittering lights, the valet attendants, the sea of gowns in every shade imaginable. Before she could grow overwhelmed, Clooney appeared, and the world softened. He was in a black tuxedo, crisp and striking, his eyes lighting up the second they found her. My God, he whispered, stepping closer. Cassie, you look incredible. Her pulse fluttered. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. He offered his arm, and when she slid her hand into place, a warm spark ran through her chest. Walking inside together drew more attention than she expected. Heads turned. Some eyes widened, others softened, a few whispered. Cassie tried to steady her breathing, but Clooney leaned down and murmured, "I'm right here." That simple sentence helped her stand taller. Inside, the chandeliers glowed softly over elegantly decorated tables and a live jazz band. Clooney introduced her to several guests, his business partners, community leaders, donors. Each introduction was respectful, but she felt the weight of being in his world. The contrast between her upbringing and his background lingered in the back of her mind like a quiet shadow. Yet whenever she glanced at Clooney, he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Dinner moved smoothly with conversation she could comfortably engage in, thanks mostly to the warm, lively doctor seated beside her, who made everyone laugh. Clooney would occasionally brush her hand gently under the tablecloth, a private reassurance that grounded her. When dessert plates were cleared and the band shifted to a slower tune, Clooney turned to her with a soft smile. "Dance with me?" Her heart jumped, but she nodded. On the dance floor, Cassie stepped into his hold slowly, letting herself feel the sway of the music and the safety of his touch. His hand rested on her waist, her palm settled lightly on his shoulder. They began to move in quiet rhythm. Neither of them spoke for a while, the closeness saying everything. Then Clooney leaned just slightly, voice lowered. "I'm honored you came tonight." "I'm honored you wanted me here," she replied honestly, though her voice wavered with vulnerability. He guided her into a small turn. "I didn't just want you here. I wanted this night with you, specifically you." That confession settled deep in her chest. Cassie swallowed, gathering courage. "I've been scared," she admitted. "Not of you, just of letting myself hope again." Clooney's grip tightened with gentle reassurance. "You don't have to rush anything with me. I'll move at whatever pace feels right for you." Her eyes lifted to his. Soft, steady, patient. Something inside her cracked open in the best way. The music slowed further, the lights dimmed just enough, and the rest of the world blurred. Clooney dipped his head, hesitating for permission. This time, Cassie didn't hesitate. She tipped her face up. Their lips met. Warm, careful, searching. A kiss that didn't demand anything but offered everything. Cassie felt her entire chest bloom with emotion she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. It wasn't just attraction. It was connection. Tender and startlingly real. When they slowly parted, Clooney exhaled as if he'd been holding his breath since the moment he met her. "Cassie," he whispered like her name itself was something precious. But the moment didn't stay private. A pair of onlookers nearby exchanged not-so-subtle glances, whispering behind manicured fingers. Cassie stiffened, suddenly aware of all the eyes, all the assumptions, all the potential gossip. Clooney noticed instantly. Without a word, he took her hand and guided her off the dance floor, through a side door, and onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city. Away from the noise, away from judgment, just them. The cool night breeze brushed her cheek. Clooney turned to her gently. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "You didn't," Cassie assured, even though her nerves still fluttered. I'm not used to attention, or being seen like that." He stepped closer, not crowding her, but holding space around her carefully. "Then we'll move slowly," he said. "At your pace. No pressure, no expectations. Just honesty and whatever feels right to you." Cassie breathed out, a long, trembling breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you," she whispered. Clooney reached for her hand again, a soft, deliberate gesture. "Whatever this becomes, Cassie, I'm here." Her chest warmed. For the first time, she let herself believe it, and under the quiet glow of the city lights, she squeezed his hand back, a silent agreement that this fragile beginning was worth nurturing. Sandy Bottom Nature Park had always been one of Cassie's favorite places to take Malik. The open trails, the gentle rustle of the trees, the calm lake. It was a space where her son could run freely, and she could breathe without the weight of her worries pressing on her shoulders. But today felt different. Today Clooney was coming with them. It was their first true outing as something, not a couple, not officially, not yet, but definitely more than friends. The gala had changed things, deepened something, softened something. And now, for the first time, Cassie was seeing what it might feel like to bring Clooney into the part of her life that mattered most, Malik. She held Malik's hand as they walked toward one of the picnic tables. Malik swung their joined hands back and forth, humming one of his favorite songs under his breath. "Mom," Malik asked suddenly, "is Mr. Clooney coming for real?" "Yes," Cassie replied, her heart fluttering against her ribs. "He said he'd meet us right over there by the trail entrance." Malik grinned so wide she couldn't help but smile. He liked Clooney, really liked him. More than she expected, more than she was sure she was ready for. But there was something undeniably sweet about how quickly Malik had accepted him. As they reached the clearing near the lake, Malik tugged her sleeve. "Mom, look." Clooney stood by the water, hands in his pockets, looking almost unreal in the natural morning light. He wasn't dressed like a CEO today, no pressed suit, no tie. Just a comfortable shirt, dark jeans, and a soft smile that formed the moment he saw them. "There you two are," he said as he approached. Malik ran forward with zero hesitation. "Mr. Clooney, look what I brought." He held up a small toy dinosaur. Clooney crouched down to eye level. "That's a pretty fierce one, Malik. Think he can take a stroll with us?" Malik nodded proudly. "He goes everywhere I go." Cassie laughed softly. "That's true." Clooney stood and glanced at her. Really glanced. As if checking to make sure she was okay stepping into this new territory with him. She nodded gently, silently answering the question in his eyes. They started down the trail together, Malik skipping ahead with his dinosaur leading the way. Clooney walked beside Cassie, close enough for her to feel his presence, but not so close that she felt crowded. "This place is beautiful," he said quietly. "I can see why you bring him here." "It's peaceful," she replied. "Helps him burn energy. Helps me reset." He looked over at her with a soft expression. "You deserve places that make you feel light." Her heart tightened at the gentleness in his words. They followed Malik to the edge of the lake, where he immediately leaned down to throw small rocks into the water. Clooney joined him, choosing smooth stones and skipping them with practiced skill. "Whoa!" Malik's eyes widened. "How'd you do that?" Clooney smiled. "Want me to show you?" "Yes." Cassie watched from a few steps back as Clooney gently positioned Malik's hands, showing him how to angle the stone, how to flick his wrist. After a few tries, Malik's rock finally skipped twice before sinking. "I did it," he shouted. Cassie clapped proudly. "Good job, baby." Clooney turned and flashed her a smile so warm it made her chest swell. For a moment, everything felt whole, like a small, unexpected piece of joy she didn't realize she'd been missing. They continued their walk, stopping to admire turtles sunbathing on logs, birds gliding low over the water, and the way sunlight filtered through the branches. Malik insisted on showing Clooney every cool stick, every bug he found, every interesting leaf, and Clooney listened each time with the patience of someone who genuinely cared. At one point, Malik ran ahead on the path, leaving Cassie and Clooney walking side by side. "He really likes you," Cassie said softly. Clooney looked at her, his voice gentle. "I really like him." Her breath caught. "And I like you, Cassie," he added, "more than I expected to, more than I planned to." The honesty in his tone wrapped around her heart. She inhaled shakily. "You make things feel safe, and that scares me sometimes." His brows softened. "I don't want to rush anything or push you into anything. I just want to build something steady, slow, real." Her eyes shimmered slightly. "Thank you." They reached a wooden bridge where the water ran underneath in a quiet, steady ripple. Malik called out, "Mom, take a picture of us." Cassie pulled out her phone. Clooney lifted Malik onto his hip, and together they smiled, Malik grinning wildly, Clooney looking relaxed and content. The image was so natural, so effortlessly warm that Cassie's breath paused. They looked like a family, a real family. Something shifted inside her. Not fear this time, but a tender ache she hadn't felt in years. The ache of possibility. After a while, they sat on a bench overlooking the water. Malik rested his head on Clooney's arm, tired from running. Clooney gently adjusted his posture so the boy could lean comfortably. Cassie watched them quietly, her heart blooming and trembling at once. Clooney met her gaze. No words, but everything was in his eyes. This wasn't pretend. This wasn't fantasy. This was real connection forming right in front of her. A future with warmth. A future with peace. A future where love didn't feel dangerous. A future where Clooney fit. The week after the park outing felt lighter than anything Cassie had experienced in years. Something in her spirit had shifted, like a tight knot she'd been carrying for far too long had finally loosened. She found herself humming in the mornings while packing Malik's lunch. She caught herself smiling at small things, softer things. She wasn't used to this kind of ease, but she welcomed it cautiously. Clooney and Malik had formed a bond so natural that even she couldn't deny how right it felt. Malik asked about him constantly. Is Mr. Clooney coming this weekend? Do you think he'll show me how to skip rocks again? Can he come over for dinner one day? Every question touched a place inside her she tried so hard to protect. She didn't want Malik attaching himself to someone who might leave. She didn't want to let her guard down only to have it all crumble. But the truth was undeniable. Clooney wasn't pulling away. If anything, he was drawing closer. And Cassie didn't feel afraid of him. She felt afraid of how good things were beginning to feel. That was new. That was terrifying. That was hopeful. Cassie's internal work begins. Late one afternoon, after work, Cassie sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea, journaling something her therapist had asked her to reflect on. What would it look like to let yourself be loved without fear? She stared at the question for a long while. Her pen finally moved. It would look like peace, like patience, like someone choosing me without pressure, someone choosing Malik too, someone who stays. She paused, then added, Clooney makes me feel that way. Writing the truth didn't make her chest tighten. It made her exhale. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't running. She was opening, even if just a little. Malik's excitement grows. By Friday evening, Malik bounced around the living room with uncontainable excitement. Mom, what time are you going? He asked, climbing onto the couch upside down. Malik, get down before you fall, Cassie said, laughing as she folded laundry. But what time? What time? Baby, he's picking me up at 7, so I get to hang with Grandma. Malik cheered. Can I tell her about the park day again? You absolutely can, Cassie smiled. Malik jumped onto her lap, wrapping his arms around her neck. Mom, I like him. He makes you smile different. Cassie froze slightly. Her son's observations were always sharper than people realized. Does he? She whispered. Malik nodded against her shoulder. Yeah. You look happy? The simple innocence of that statement pierced her heart. She hugged him tighter. I'm trying to be. Choosing confidence. By 6 o'clock, Cassie stood in front of her mirror, wearing a deep auburn dress that complemented her skin beautifully. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't extravagant. It was elegant. The kind of dress a woman wore when she didn't need to prove anything. She touched her reflection gently. Her curls were soft and defined. Her makeup was subtle but warm. Her shoulders relaxed, her eyes bright, her posture straight. For the first time in years, she saw herself not as someone surviving, but someone deserving. Mama peeked into the room and let out a soft whistle. Well, look at you. Clooney better treat you right tonight. No pressure, Mama, Cassie joked nervously. Mama stepped closer, placing a hand on her cheek. Baby, you've been through enough. If this man is giving you steady energy, let yourself feel it. You don't have to be scared of something good. Cassie swallowed back the emotion rising in her throat. I'm trying. That's all anyone can ask, Mama said. The foreshadow shift. A knock sounded from the living room. Cassie's breath stalled. Her pulse began to flutter. Mama grinned and whispered, That's your gentleman. Cassie walked slowly toward the door, smoothing her dress with trembling hands. She inhaled deeply before pulling it open. Clooney stood there in a charcoal suit, holding a single rose. The way he looked at her, still, quiet, full of admiration, made her knees weaken. "You look beautiful, Cassie," he said, his voice low, sincere. She took the rose with a shy smile. "Thank you. You look very handsome." He chuckled softly. "I was hoping to impress you." "You did." Cassie placed hers gently in his. Everything felt like the opening scene of a new chapter, one she was almost ready to step into fully. The wind shifted. Something in the pit of her stomach tightened, something old, something heavy, something she thought she had left behind long ago. Her hand hesitated for just a moment on Clooney's arm. He noticed instantly. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Yes," she answered, but her voice wavered, because suddenly a quiet unease brushed against her. A whisper from her past, a shadow she hadn't confronted in years. She didn't know why she felt it. She couldn't explain it. But as the evening sky darkened, Cassie sensed that the peace she was building was about to be tested. The evening air settled around Cassie as she stepped out onto the porch with Clooney. She held his hand delicately, her heart fluttering with anticipation for their dinner. But beneath that excitement, something pressed against her senses. A quiet disturbance, a memory tugging at the edges of her peace. She told herself it was nerves. She told herself she was fine. But then she saw it. A silhouette leaning against the railing just steps away from her front door. Cassie froze. Clooney stopped instantly beside her. His posture shifted subtly, protectively, as he followed her gaze. The man straightened from the shadows. His face emerged under the porch light. "Darius," she whispered, her ex, the one who had been gone for years, the one who had left bruises on her heart, that time alone couldn't erase. He hadn't changed. If anything, his presence felt heavier now, not physically, but emotionally. His eyes carried the same sharp entitlement she remembered too well. Well, Darius said with a slow nod, his voice coldly amused. "Look at you. All dressed up like you're somebody now." Cassie instinctively stepped back. Clooney moved with her, subtly placing himself slightly in front of her. "What are you doing here?" Cassie managed, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound steady. Darius ignored her question and looked Clooney up and down. "So this is him, huh?" "The fancy man." Clooney kept his tone calm but firm. "You need to leave." Darius laughed under his breath. "I wasn't talking to you." Cassie swallowed hard. "Darius, you shouldn't be here. You're not supposed to be anywhere near us." "Still talking rules, Cassie," he sneered. "You think you can build a new life without me? You think you can hide Malik from his own father?" Her chest constricted. "You were never a father to him." Darius stepped closer, voice lowering with malice. "He's mine. Don't forget that." Cassie flinched. Clooney stepped fully in front of her now. "She told you to leave." Darius's jaw tensed. "You need to mind your business, man. This is my business," Clooney replied evenly. "When you show up here threatening her." Darius took another step forward and Clooney's shoulders squared, ready but controlled. Cassie grabbed Clooney's arm gently. "Please, don't," she whispered. "I just want him gone." Her voice cracked, and Darius smirked at the sound of her fear. "See? She still listens. Always did." Clooney's expression hardened. "We're calling the police." Darius snapped. "Don't you dare." Cassie took out her phone with shaking hands, but before she could dial, Darius lunged toward her. Everything happened at once. Clooney stepped in front of her, blocking Darius completely. Darius shoved him hard. Clooney stumbled but regained his footing instantly. Darius swung again, this time with his fist. Clooney caught the hit with his forearm and pushed Darius back, not aggressively, but firmly with authority. "Stop," Clooney warned. "Walk away." But Darius didn't stop. He lunged again, fury overtaking reason. Cassie cried out, begging him to stop, but Darius pushed past Clooney just enough to reach her. His hand struck Cassie across the face. The sound was sharp. Her gasp cut through the night. Clooney's entire body tensed with rage. He grabbed Darius and shoved him back with force. This time he didn't lose ground. This time he fought to protect the woman behind him. "What is wrong with you?" Clooney yelled, anger breaking through his usually calm tone. Darius swung wildly again, and Clooney blocked the hit, pushing him against the porch railing. They wrestled, both breathing hard. "Stop! Stop!" Cassie screamed, tears streaming down her face as the two men struggled inches from one another. Her voice finally pierced through the chaos. Clooney let go first, backing away to put distance between himself and the man who had hurt her. "Cassie, call the police. Now." She fumbled for her phone with trembling hands, dialing with frantic precision. Darius staggered back, chest heaving, eyes burning with resentment. "This isn't over," he spat. "You're right," Cassie said through tears, her voice shaking but filled with something she hadn't had before. "Finality. It's over for good." Distant sirens began to wail toward them. Darius cursed under his breath, glancing around in panic. Then he took off down the street before the patrol car even reached the block. Cassie collapsed to her knees. Clooney rushed to her, kneeling beside her, gently touching her cheek. "Cassie, are you hurt? Let me see." Her skin was red where Darius had struck her, swelling already forming. Clooney's eyes darkened with protective fury and deep concern. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have let him get close." "You didn't," she whispered through sobs. "You protected me. You stayed." Police lights flooded the porch. Officers approached, asking questions, scanning the street, gathering descriptions. Cassie answered what she could, her voice shaking uncontrollably. Clooney stayed beside her the entire time, refusing to move more than a few inches away. When the officers finally left, Cassie broke. Her body trembled, her breath uneven, fear clawing up her throat. The memories she'd buried surged back. The shouting, the pressure, the terror of being trapped in that old life. Clooney gently wrapped his arms around her. "I'm here," he whispered into her hair. "I'm not going anywhere," she cried into his chest, gripping his jacket as if he were the only thing keeping her from collapsing entirely. "I'm sorry," she whispered repeatedly. "I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize," he murmured, holding her tighter. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing." He stayed with her until her breathing calmed, until her tears slowed, until she could stand again. "Please," she whispered, voice fragile. "Don't leave me tonight." His answer came without hesitation. "I won't," he said softly. "Not tonight. Not ever, if you'll let me stay." Cassie looked up at him, eyes swollen but full of something new. Trust. Real trust. They stepped inside together. And for the first time since her past came clawing back, Cassie didn't feel alone. Cassie barely slept that night. Every time she drifted into shallow rest, flashes of Darius's face pulled her awake again. His voice, his rage, the sting of his hand on her cheek. Her body felt heavy, her mind trapped somewhere between shock and exhaustion. But Clooney never left her side. He stayed on the edge of the couch where she rested, his hand loosely holding hers, offering quiet reassurance without crowding her. When she sat up trembling, he spoke gently. When she covered her face and cried again, he whispered comfort. When dawn crept into the room, he was still there. The morning light softened the shadows across the living room, but inside her chest, the fear still pulsed quietly. Cassie sat upright slowly. Clooney straightened, watching her with patient concern. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked softly. "A little," she whispered. "You didn't have to stay." "Yes," he replied gently. "I did." His certainty unraveled something inside her. She pulled a blanket around her shoulders, grounding herself. Malik was still asleep in his room. Her mother had tucked him in and promised to stay the night, giving Cassie space to breathe. Clooney waited, silent but present, until Cassie finally lowered her gaze to her hands. "I guess you saw the worst of my life last night," she murmured. "No," Clooney replied with a quiet firmness. "I saw someone survive something she never deserved." Her breath trembled. He reached forward, but didn't touch her. He waited for her to meet him halfway. After a moment, she placed her hand in his. That small act broke the dam. "Clooney," her voice cracked. "You need to know everything. Not pieces. Not the cleaned-up version. The truth." He nodded. "I'm listening." And so she began, her voice, her trauma. "At first, Darius wasn't like that," she whispered. "He was charming. Funny, everybody liked him. I was young, naive. I wanted someone to see me. Her chest rose and fell slowly. But after Malik was born, he changed. Or maybe I finally saw who he was. He controlled everything. Who I talked to, where I went, what I wore. He'd apologize after every outburst, promise he would do better. But it always got worse. Clooney's jaw tightened, but he kept completely still so she wouldn't stop. There were nights I hid in Malik's room, because it was the only place he wouldn't kick the door in. I kept telling myself it wasn't as bad as it felt, that if I just tried harder, he'd calm down. Tears filled her eyes, but he didn't. He got angrier, meaner. He threw things, broke things, threatened to take Malik away if I left. Clooney's eyes glistened, but he didn't interrupt. One night, he pushed me so hard I hit the floor. Malik saw. He was only 4. Her voice shattered. That was when I realized staying wasn't protecting my son. It was teaching him that this was normal. She covered her face with her hands. Her shoulders shook. Clooney moved closer, slow, careful, and rested his hand on her back. She didn't pull away. I left him with nothing, she whispered. No money, no job. Just my child and a bag of clothes. I stayed with my mom for months trying to piece myself together. Her eyes met his, raw and exposed. I've carried so much shame. Not just for being with him, but for believing I deserved someone like him, for thinking I wasn't worth anything more. Clooney shook his head, voice breaking. Cassie, don't ever say that. It's true, she whispered. People like you don't end up with people like me. You deserve someone whole. Someone without all this damage. Her breath trembled violently, and she looked away. Clooney reached forward and gently lifted her chin so she would meet his eyes. Listen to me, he said softly, but with certainty. Nothing about your past makes you unworthy. Nothing about what he did defines who you are. Her tears spilled over. You survived something that would break most people. You built a life for Malik. You worked, you provided, you protected him. That isn't damage, Cassie. That's strength. Real strength. She sobbed again, but this time the tears felt different. Not from fear, but from release. Clooney brushed a tear from her cheek with the back of his fingers. And I meant what I said. I'm here. I'm not running because things are complicated. Loving someone means staying when it's hard, not only when it's easy. She froze at the word, loving, though he hadn't realized he'd said it. But it landed softly, not frightening her, just warming a place in her chest she thought had gone cold. She exhaled shakily. I've never told anyone everything, not even my family. Thank you for trusting me, he whispered. Cassie leaned into him finally, letting her forehead rest against his chest. His arms wrapped around her, steady and warm. For the first time, she felt something unfamiliar. She felt safe telling her story. She felt safe being seen. She felt safe being vulnerable. And as Clooney held her, she realized something even more startling. She didn't feel broken anymore. She felt understood. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, warming the living room where Cassie sat curled on the couch with a blanket over her shoulders. Her cheek still throbbed from where Darius hit her, and the emotional bruise inside her felt even deeper. Clooney had not left. He brought her water when she needed it, checked on Malik quietly, spoke softly with Mama to update her. When Cassie's breathing turned shaky or shallow, he grounded her without speaking a word. Now, as the morning settled around them, she lifted her head and met his eyes. I need to do something today, she whispered. I need to make sure he can't come back. Clooney nodded gently. We'll take every step necessary. You won't face any of it alone. Her throat tightened. Thank you. Always. Mama walked into the room, a hand on Cassie's shoulder. Baby, your uncle's on his way. He said he'll go with you to the station if you need him. Cassie shook her head slowly. I want Clooney to go. Mama looked at Clooney for a moment, studying him, assessing him, then nodded once, satisfied. You two go ahead. I'll stay with Malik. He's been asking where you are. Cassie swallowed. Okay. She stood up, and Clooney offered his hand without hesitation. She took it. At the police station. The drive to the police station was quiet, but not tense. Clooney kept one hand on the wheel and one resting near her, his presence never overbearing, just steady. Inside, the officer on duty recognized her from the night before. "Miss Johnson, we're glad you came back in. We'll get the paperwork started." Cassie's hands trembled as she filled out the restraining order request. Writing down the details of Darius's violence made her stomach twist. Not because she didn't remember, but because she remembered too clearly. Clooney sat beside her, reading her body language like a second language. Any time her breath wavered, he touched her knee gently or whispered, "You're doing the right thing." When she handed in the paperwork, the officer said, "We'll prioritize this. What happened last night is serious. We'll contact you as soon as the judge signs off." Cassie nodded, relief mixing with anxiety. She felt exposed, but also protected for the first time in years. When they stepped outside, Clooney turned to her with quiet certainty. "This is the first step." Her voice was soft. "It feels like the beginning of something better, even if I'm still scared. Fear doesn't mean weakness," he said gently. "It means you survived something painful and you're still choosing to move forward." Tears gathered in her eyes again, but this time they weren't from sadness. They were from gratitude, security measures and support. Clooney didn't wait for the judge's approval to start reinforcing her safety. He called a private security consultant he trusted, explaining the situation clearly but calmly. Within hours, a professional visited her home and installed additional locks. A monitored alarm system, security lights on the porch, discreet cameras facing the yard and street. Cassie watched the process with mixed emotions, relief threaded with the ache of needing protection at all, but Clooney never made her feel weak for it. "This is temporary," he said softly. "Until your peace feels permanent." Mama agreed. A woman with a child shouldn't have to worry about danger at her front door. This is a blessing. Cassie exhaled slowly. "Thank you. All of you." Malik's innocent questions. That afternoon, Malik climbed into her lap while she sat at the kitchen table. He rested his head on her chest, holding one of her hands between his. "Mom," he whispered, "why were you crying last night?" Her heart squeezed. Malik didn't miss anything. He didn't understand everything, but he felt everything. She stroked his curls gently. "I got scared, baby, but I'm okay now." "Did someone hurt you?" he asked, voice small. Cassie breathed in, steadying herself. She didn't want to lie, but she couldn't traumatize him either. "Someone was angry," she said softly. "But Mr. Clooney protected me, and the police came to help." Malik nodded slowly, processing. "Is he gone now?" "Yes," she whispered, "and he can't come back." Malik clung to her tighter. "I don't want anyone hurting you. Ever." Cassie's eyes filled. "I know, sweet boy, and I won't let anything happen to you either." Clooney watched from the doorway, his expression tender but pained. Seeing Malik worry cut him just as deeply as seeing Cassie cry. Later, when Malik went to play, Clooney approached her quietly. "You handled that well," he said. "You're a good mother." Cassie's breath hitched at the sincerity in his voice. "I'm trying." "You're doing more than trying. You're raising a strong little boy with so much heart." She blinked back tears. "Thank you." Stability begins to form. Over the next few days, things shifted gently but noticeably. Clooney checked in every morning, texting. "How's your heart today? Did you sleep? I'm here if you need anything." He came by in the evenings to talk with her and Malik, helping with homework, sharing light stories from work, offering laughter in moments where heaviness lingered. Mama treated him differently now, too. She no longer watched him with suspicion. There was respect in her eyes every time Clooney walked into the room. Cassie noticed. She also noticed how much calmer Malik became, how his shoulders unclenched when he saw Clooney, how he followed him around like a little shadow, asking questions, showing new drawings, asking if they could go back to the park soon. Cassie couldn't deny it anymore. Clooney wasn't just helping them recover. He was becoming part of their healing. One evening, as they all sat together in the living room, Clooney gently placed his hand over Cassie's. She looked up, and instead of fear, she felt a blossoming stability inside her. Not forced. Not rushed. Just real. "You're safe now," Clooney said quietly. Cassie believed him. For the first time in years, she believed someone's promise, and that belief settled into her chest like the beginning of true peace. The shift in Cassie's life didn't happen all at once. It unfolded in steady moments, small, gentle, unhurried. After the storm with Darius, she expected her heart to stay tense, expected fear to cling like a shadow. But what surprised her was how much light entered instead. And that light had everything to do with the man who refused to leave her side. Clooney didn't flood her life, he stepped into it carefully, respectfully. He became part of her day in simple, meaningful ways. Morning check-ins, evening calls, quiet dinners with Mama and Malik. Moments of laughter that reminded Cassie her life wasn't just pain and survival. Her world was expanding, and slowly their worlds began to merge. Sunday dinner, Clooney's first test. Sunday at Mama's house was sacred, nothing fancy, but full of soul. Fried chicken, cornbread, collard greens, laughter bouncing off the walls, Malik running in and out of the kitchen begging for cornbread crumbs before dinner was even served. When Cassie brought Clooney with her, she held her breath. Mama raised an eyebrow as he walked in carrying a homemade peach cobbler he admitted he attempted himself. Aunt Renee glanced from the living room with a slow nod of curiosity. Malik beamed proudly as if presenting the world's best show-and-tell project. Clooney greeted everyone with polite warmth. But the true test was the kitchen, Mama's domain. "You ever been to a Sunday dinner like this?" Mama asked, crossing her arms as she sized him up. Clooney smiled. "No, ma'am, but I'm honored to be here." Mama pretended not to be impressed, but Cassie caught the small smile she fought to hide. When everyone sat down to eat, Clooney tried the collard greens and closed his eyes for a moment. "I don't know what seasonings you used," he said sincerely, "but this is the best I've ever tasted." Mama melted instantly. "Well, you might have just earned yourself an invitation next week." The whole table laughed. Cassie watched Clooney. How he listened, how he asked questions, how he fit himself gently into a space that wasn't originally built for him. He didn't try to dominate it or impress anyone. He just respected it. Her heart warmed in ways she couldn't put into words. Church Sunday, a new kind of belonging. The next weekend, he accompanied her family to their church, a space filled with choir harmonies, tambourines, children's giggles, ushers greeting every visitor like long-lost relatives. Cassie worried he'd feel out of place. But Clooney stood beside her holding Malik's hand, singing softly during the hymns, bowing his head respectfully during prayer. When the pastor welcomed visitors, Clooney raised his hand with a humble smile. After service, the church mothers flocked to him. "Well now, who is this fine gentleman? Is this the man we've been hearing about? You better hold on to him, Cassie." Clooney handled the attention with grace, smiling warmly, complimenting the choir, thanking everyone who welcomed him. Cassie couldn't help but blush, her heart blooming proudly. He wasn't just fitting in. He was showing up. Cookout vibes, spades, smoke, and shared laughter. When summer approached, Uncle Ray hosted a backyard cookout. Smoke from the grill filled the air, music played loud enough for the whole block to enjoy, and kids ran through sprinklers laughing. Clooney arrived wearing jeans and a casual button-down, ready for whatever came. "Uh-oh," Uncle Ray grinned. "Does the fancy man know how to play spades?" Clooney smiled calmly. "I've played before." Aunt Renee cracked her knuckles. "We'll see if you can hang at this table." Cassie watched nervously from the sidelines. Spades wasn't a game people played lightly. What shocked her was how quickly Clooney picked up the energy. He was competitive but respectful, joking but never rude, celebrating wins and laughing at losses. By the end of the night, Uncle Ray slapped him on the back. "You all right, man? You can sit at my table any time." Cassie's chest swelled with pride. These were the people who mattered to her most, and they were slowly embracing him. In return, Clooney opened his world to her, carefully, gently, and without pretension. He invited her to a small luncheon on the marina. Cassie hesitated at first, the ache of class difference tugging at her ribs. But Clooney held her hand the whole time, explaining things when needed, never making her feel small. Later, he took her and Malik to the yacht club. The staff greeted Clooney by name, and several business partners approached politely. Cassie stayed close to him, nerves humming, but Clooney always checked on her with a touch, a glance, a whisper. "You doing okay, sweetheart?" She relaxed a little more each time he asked. Still, not everyone welcomed her warmly. A few women glanced at her dress with subtle judgment. One couple whispered behind their glasses when Clooney wrapped an arm around her waist. Even one of Clooney's acquaintances asked in a pretentious tone, "And you are?" Cassie stiffened, but before she could answer, Clooney said calmly and proudly, "She's the woman I'm with." The tone made it clear there was no debate. He didn't let anyone diminish her, not with looks, not with tone, not with assumptions. His world learned quickly that Cassie mattered, and Cassie learned that she belonged by his side, not because of what she had, but because of who she was. A love that deepens and stabilizes. As the weeks passed, their relationship grew in ways Cassie never expected. Clooney helped Malik with his homework. Cassie cooked for him during quiet nights in. He asked her what she needed rather than assuming. She leaned into him emotionally without collapsing. Their moments weren't dramatic or overly grand. They were small, simple, steady, and slowly Cassie realized. Love didn't have to hurt. Love didn't have to feel like a battle. Love could be patient, gentle, protective, and warm. A bridge had formed between their worlds. Two different lives meeting in the middle, learning from one another, respecting one another, growing together. And for the first time in years, Cassie didn't just feel hope. She felt home. Healing didn't happen overnight. It didn't arrive in a sudden wave or through a dramatic moment. For Cassie, healing came in small, steady pieces, the kind that built themselves quietly inside her heart until she realized she could breathe again without fear pressing against her ribs. Therapy became one of her sacred spaces. Every Tuesday evening, she sat in a calming room with warm lighting and talked about things she once buried, the pain of Darius, the weight of being a single mother, the fear of trusting someone again. Her therapist guided her through the hard moments, challenging her when she pulled away and celebrating her when she shared openly. "Your story didn't end in that trauma," her therapist told her one night. "That was only a chapter. And now you're writing a new one, with safety, with stability, and with love." For the first time, Cassie believed that. Because love wasn't something she had to survive anymore. It was something she could rest in. Malik flourishes. Malik blossomed in ways that warmed Cassie's heart. He laughed more freely, slept better, kept his drawings taped all over the fridge, and constantly talked about new things he learned. But the biggest shift? His bond with Clooney. Clooney picked Malik up from school some afternoons when Cassie worked late. They hung out at the park, built tall block towers, played basketball in the driveway. One day, Cassie peeked outside and saw Malik sitting on Clooney's shoulders, both of them laughing as if they had known each other for years. It was the laughter that undid her. The kind that only came from a child who felt safe. One evening, Malik ran to Cassie holding a small paper booklet he had made at school. "Mom, look what I wrote." She opened it and felt her breath catch. "My favorite people" was written in crayon on the cover. Inside were pictures Malik had drawn, a stick figure version of himself. Cassie, Mama, and Clooney, smiling with a basketball in his hand. Cassie blinked back tears. "Baby, this is beautiful." Malik leaned into her. "Mr. Clooney helps me a lot. He listens." "He's nice." Her chest warmed. "I'm glad you feel that way," Malik whispered. "Do you think he'll be around for a long time?" Cassie hesitated, not from fear, but from the weight of hope settling in her heart. "I think," she said softly, "he wants to be." Clooney dreams out loud. Later that week, Cassie and Clooney sat on her porch after dinner. The night breeze was gentle, carrying the scent of cut grass and evening dew. Malik had just gone to bed, and Mama was inside knitting while watching an old comedy show. Clooney reached for Cassie's hand. She let him intertwine his fingers with hers. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "I never expected my life to take this turn." Her eyes softened. "Is that good or bad?" "Good," he answered, without hesitation. Better than I imagined. She looked down, shy under the intensity of his honesty. Clooney continued, Before you, everything in my life was structured, timed, measured. Work was my world, but now when I imagine the future, the first thing I see is you and Malik. Her throat tightened. He smiled gently. I want a life where I don't just show up for you. I build with you. Her breath trembled. Clooney, that's a lot. I don't want to rush things. We're not rushing, he said softly. We're building slowly. But I need you to know. I'm serious about you. About us. She leaned her head against his shoulder, letting the warmth of his words seep into her heart. For years she had prepared herself for disappointment. She had taught herself not to expect too much from anyone. But with Clooney, the fear wasn't loud anymore. It didn't silence her hope. With him, she could imagine a stable tomorrow. Cassie begins to trust happiness. Therapy helped her understand something crucial. Joy didn't mean danger. Happiness didn't signal a storm waiting to strike. Love didn't have to come with pain. So she practiced trusting good things, even when it felt new and scary. When Clooney took Malik to see a local ball game, she trusted it would be fine. When Clooney surprised her with dinner after a long workday, she allowed herself to enjoy it. When he held her hand in public, she didn't pull away. When he told her she was beautiful, she didn't deny it. She smiled. The biggest shift came one afternoon when they were sitting at the park, watching Malik climb the jungle gym. Cassie whispered, I never thought happiness could feel simple. Clooney squeezed her hand gently. It feels simple because it's real. And because you deserve peace. Her heart expanded at the truth of those words. She was healing, not through grand gestures, but through moments of stability, love, and patience, and for the first time in her adult life. Cassie wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. She wasn't bracing for pain. She wasn't shrinking from hope. She was stepping into a future that felt warm, safe, and hers. A future where love truly felt like home. The morning of the proposal began simply, the way the most meaningful days often do. Cassie woke up feeling calm, a rare stillness resting in her chest. The sun filtered softly through her curtains, and a cool breeze drifted from the cracked window. Malik was humming in his room. Mama was downstairs making breakfast. And for once, Cassie didn't feel like she was waiting for the world to break beneath her feet. She didn't know that her life was about to shift in a way she had quietly prayed for but never dared to expect. A gentle invitation. Clooney texted her shortly after sunrise. Someplace meaningful. Someplace peaceful. Can I steal you for a few hours today? Cassie smiled. Just me? She replied. Just you, he wrote back. I want a moment that belongs to us. She felt a flutter of anticipation, soft, warm, hopeful. She told Mama she'd be out for a little while. Mama gave her a knowing look. Wear something nice, baby. Mama. Cassie blushed. It's not like that. Mama grinned. If you say so. Cassie chose a simple but beautiful cream dress, soft curls cascading down her shoulders. She looked at herself in the mirror and realized how far she had come. Her eyes no longer carried the weight of constant fear. She looked like a woman at peace with her present and finally hopeful about her future. When Clooney arrived, he stared at her in quiet awe before whispering, You always take my breath away. She blushed, letting him hold her hand as they drove. Arriving at the Emancipation Oak, he took her to the Emancipation Oak, a historic landmark in Hampton where enslaved people once gathered to hear the first Southern reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. For Cassie, who grew up learning the power of her ancestors' stories, this tree symbolized freedom, resilience, and rebirth. When they stepped out of the car and she realized where they were, her breath caught. Clooney, why here? She whispered. He looked around, taking in the massive branches, the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves. Because this place represents strength, he said softly. It represents survival, courage, and new beginnings, and every time I look at you, that's what I see. Her heart trembled. He offered his hand. Walk with me? She nodded, slipping her fingers into his. They walked slowly around the enormous tree, its roots twisting deeply into the earth like stories passed down through generations. Cassie brushed her hand across the bark, feeling connected to something bigger than herself. "This place means a lot to me," she told him. "I know," he replied gently. "That's why I wanted you here today." Clooney's heart opens. They reached a quiet shaded area beneath the canopy. The wind carried a soft whisper through the leaves, as if blessing whatever moment was about to unfold. Clooney turned to her, his eyes softer than she had ever seen them. "Cassie," he began, taking both her hands, "when I met you, I had no idea how much you would change my life." Her breath caught. "You showed me what real love looks like," he continued. "Not the polished kind people pretend to have, but the honest kind, the kind that heals, that anchors, that grows." Emotion welled in Cassie's throat. "You've allowed me into your world," he said, voice steady but full of feeling. "You've trusted me with your heart, your son, your story, and you've made me realize that the future I want is a future with you." Cassie's lips parted as tears formed in her eyes. Clooney slowly reached into his pocket. Her heart stopped. "The proposal." "Cassie?" he whispered, lowering himself to one knee under the shelter of the historic oak. "Will you build a life with me?" A delicate ring glimmered in the sunlight, elegant, simple, breathtaking. Cassie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. He, unwavering devotion, looked up at her with, "Will you marry me?" A sob escaped her, not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude, healing, and love. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, clearer, "Yes, Clooney, yes." He stood quickly, pulling her into an embrace that lifted her feet off the ground. She cried against his shoulder as he held her close beneath the branches that had witnessed generations of liberation and new beginnings. It felt right. It felt sacred. It felt like destiny aligning. Wedding planning begins. When they returned home, Mama screamed so loud the neighbors peeked outside. Malik ran to her, eyes widening at the ring. "Mom, is that Are you really marrying him?" She knelt and hugged him tightly. "Yes, baby. He's going to be part of our family." Malik nearly tackled Clooney with excitement. "Does that mean you're going to teach me basketball every day?" Clooney laughed and ruffled his hair. "Every day you want, champ." Mama wiped her eyes. Lord, this house needed this joy. The weeks that followed became a blend of traditions. Mama insisted on incorporating black cultural elements into the ceremony. Clooney suggested holding part of the reception outdoors to honor Cassie's family roots. Cassie wanted a gospel choir for the opening procession. Clooney's family offered to sponsor a scholarship fund in Malik's name as a wedding gift. Their worlds merged with grace, not force. It didn't matter that they came from different upbringings. What mattered was how deeply and sincerely they chose each other. One evening, as they reviewed wedding details, Clooney took her hand and whispered, "I can't wait to build a life with you." For the first time in her life, Cassie believed the future held more love than pain, and that belief was the greatest healing of all. The wedding day unfolded like a sunrise, gentle, steady, and full of promise. Cassie's heart swelled as she looked in the mirror, adjusting the soft ivory gown she had chosen. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't dripping in crystals or heavy lace. It was elegant and meaningful, just like the life she had rebuilt. Mama dabbed her eyes as she fastened Cassie's bracelet. "You found your blessing, baby," she whispered. Cassie touched her mother's hand. "I found peace, Mama, and love I never thought I'd earn. You always deserved it," Mama said with soft conviction. "You just needed someone who could see it." Downstairs, the hum of family filled the house. Malik ran around carefully holding the ring pillow, filled with excitement that spilled out in every grin and giggle. "Mom, Mr. Clooney said I'm his right-hand man today," he said proudly, chest puffed out. Cassie kissed his forehead. "You've always been amazing." Malik leaned in close, his voice a whisper. "I'm happy he's going to be my dad." Her breath hitched. She pulled him tight, her heart blooming at the simple, pure truth in his words. The ceremony took place outdoors beneath a canopy of soft evening light. Cassie chose the same historic oak grove where Clooney proposed, a place rooted in resilience and freedom. Rows of chairs lined the path, decorated with white roses and gentle touches of greenery. Soft gospel harmonies drifted through the air as guests took their seats. Clooney stood near the front, adjusting his cufflinks, trying to steady his breathing. Mama tapped his shoulder as she passed him and whispered, "You better take care of my daughter." "I will," Clooney answered with quiet certainty. When Cassie appeared at the top of the aisle, Clooney's breath caught audibly. His eyes softened, filled with awe and emotion, as if he were seeing a miracle walk toward him. Cassie stepped forward slowly, her heart thudding in her chest. Every step represented healing, every moment a testament to the strength she'd reclaimed. Malik walked ahead proudly, holding the ring pillow, and Mama held her arm gently, guiding her toward her future. When Cassie reached Clooney, he took her hands with a reverence that warmed every corner of her soul. "You look beautiful," he whispered. "And you look like the answer to a prayer I didn't know how to say," she responded. The officiant spoke of partnership, of restored hope, of two worlds merging not by force, but by choice. They exchanged vows that were simple, honest, and full of promises rooted in truth. Clooney's voice trembled as he said, "I promise to protect your heart, to honor your strength, and to love Malik as my own for all the days of my life." Tears streamed down Cassie's cheeks. She replied, "I promise to walk beside you, not behind you or in front of you, but with you, and to build a home where peace lives, where Malik thrives, and where love grows freely." When they exchanged rings and shared their first kiss as husband and wife, applause erupted. Malik jumped into their arms as the guests stood, and Clooney held both of them close. A family sealed in love. Malik says the word that changes everything. Later during the reception, while everyone celebrated with joy, dancing, laughing, enjoying food made with care, Malik tugged on Clooney's sleeve. "Dad?" Clooney froze, eyes widening slightly. Malik repeated it, louder this time. "Dad, can you help me with my plate?" Clooney knelt down slowly, overwhelmed with emotion. You don't have to call me that if you're not ready." Malik frowned. "But I want to." "You feel like my dad." Clooney's throat tightened as he pulled Malik into a warm hug. "And you feel like my son." Cassie watched them from across the room, her hand covering her mouth as her heart overflowed. This moment, this pure bond was everything she had dreamed of for Malik, and everything she never believed she would witness. The birth of baby Hope. 2 years later, their lives were fuller than Cassie ever imagined possible. Malik thrived in school, his confidence blooming under Clooney's devoted mentorship. Cassie and Clooney worked through challenges with communication, trust, and patience. Their home was filled with laughter, homework sessions at the kitchen table, and quiet evenings on the porch. Then came the day that marked a new chapter in their journey, the birth of their daughter. They named her Hope because she came from healing, from faith restored, from a love that rebuilt everything broken inside Cassie. Watching Clooney hold baby Hope for the first time made Cassie cry softly. He rocked her gently, whispering promises to protect her, guide her, and raise her with kindness. Malik peered over his father's shoulder proudly. "I'm going to teach her everything," he announced, "even basketball." Cassie stroked his cheek. "She's lucky to have you as her big brother." Their family felt complete, built with intention, patience, and devotion. A life filled with everyday miracles. Years passed gently. Malik played basketball with Clooney every weekend, growing stronger and more confident. Cassie and Clooney spent evenings on the porch, talking about life, teasing each other playfully, sharing warm silences. Baby Hope grew into a lively toddler, bringing laughter into every room she entered. Sunday dinners remained a tradition, filled with storytelling, soulful meals, and family joy. Cookouts were a blend of cultures, where Mama taught Clooney new recipes while Clooney introduced the family to dishes he loved growing up. Church Sundays remained sacred, and the congregation smiled when they saw the blended family sitting together. Charity events became meaningful, with Clooney proudly introducing Cassie as his wife, and Cassie shining with confidence she had earned through her journey of healing. Their lives weren't perfect. No marriage was. But they were rooted in love that grew stronger with time. Cassie's trauma didn't break her. It shaped her into a woman who learned how strong she truly was. Clooney's patience turned into a lifelong commitment, one that never wavered, even in hard seasons. And together they built a family that wasn't born from perfection, but from love, healing, and second chances. Their blended family wasn't just a home. It was a miracle crafted from resilience, grace, and the courage to love again. Let me know in the comments what part of Cassie and Clooney's journey touched you the most. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this.